I should have kept my mouth shut. That's what I told myself as I balanced the tray of champagne flutes, weaving through Manhattan's elite in their designer gowns and $1,000 suits. The gallery buzzed with the kind of wealth that made my student loans feel like a cosmic joke. But I needed this catering gig. Rent in Hell's Kitchen didn't pay itself, and my art history degree certainly wasn't doing it. The painting hung center stage, a supposed Caravaggio, unveiled tonight for a private auction. The Penitent Saint, they called it. Dark, brooding, worth somewhere north of $100 million according to the whispers floating through the crowd. Except it wasn't real. I'd spotted it the moment I entered. The craquelure was wrong, too uniform, too mechanical. The pigment layering didn't match Caravaggio's technique. Someone had done exceptional work, but my 6 years studying Italian Baroque under Professor Chen hadn't been for nothing. This was a forgery. A damn good one, but a forgery nonetheless. More champagne? I approached a group near the painting, my heart hammering. They barely glanced at me. I was invisible in my white shirt and black pants, just another server in a city full of them. Then I saw him. He stood alone, studying the painting with an intensity that made everyone else's appreciation look theatrical. Tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from the same marble as a Roman statue. Sharp jaw, straight nose, and eyes. God, those eyes so dark they looked black in the gallery's dramatic lighting. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my car, tailored perfectly to shoulders that suggested he did more than sit behind a desk. But it wasn't his looks that stopped me cold. It was the way people moved around him. Subtly, instinctively, like planets orbiting something dangerous. He reached out, almost touching the canvas, and I watched his jaw tighten. He was going to buy it. You could see it in the set of his shoulders, the way his hand moved to his phone. $100 million for a fake. My feet carried me forward before my brain could stop them. "Excuse me," I whispered, leaning close enough to smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. Cedar and smoke. "That painting is a fake." His head turned slowly. Our eyes met. The world stopped. I'd never believed in the romance novel moment where time freezes and everything else fades. But standing there, caught in the full weight of his attention, I understood. His eyes weren't just dark. They were calculating, ancient, holding secrets that made my skin prickle with warning. "What did you say?" His voice was low, controlled, with the faintest trace of an accent I couldn't place. "Italian, maybe. Sicilian." My throat dried. "The painting, it's... Miss." A sharp voice cut through the moment. Marcus, the catering manager, appeared at my elbow, his face red. "You're needed in the kitchen, now." But the man's gaze hadn't left mine. "No," he said simply, the single word carrying absolute authority. "She stays." Marcus paled. Actually paled. "Mr. Marchetti, I apologize for... Leave us." It wasn't a request. Marcus vanished into the crowd, and I was left alone with a man whose last name sent ice down my spine. Marchetti. I'd heard that name before, whispered in the same breath as words like family and untouchable and don't ask questions. "Explain." He turned fully toward me, and I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Quickly. My hands trembled around the tray. The craquelure pattern, the cracks in the paint, they're too regular. Mechanical aging, not natural. And the pigment binding is wrong for 17th century technique. Caravaggio used specific oil ratios that create a particular luminosity. This doesn't have it. The words tumbled out, my academic training overriding my fear. The composition is perfect. The brushwork is exceptional, but it's not real. Someone's trying to sell you a reproduction. Silence stretched between us, dangerous and electric. Then his lips curved, not quite a smile. Something darker. "You study art." "I have a master's in art history. Baroque specialization." I squared my shoulders, trying not to feel like prey. "I spent 2 years in Florence analyzing Caravaggio's technique. I know his work." "What's your name?" "Elena. Elena Russo." Something flickered in his expression at my last name, there and gone too quickly to interpret. "Elena Russo." He repeated it like he was memorizing it, filing it away. "And you're serving champagne." Heat crept up my neck. "Student loans are real, Mr. Marchetti." "Dante," he corrected, his eyes never leaving mine. "If you're going to save me from losing $100 million, you should call me Dante." Before I could respond, a man appeared beside him, shorter, stockier, with cold eyes that assessed me like a threat. "Boss, The auction starts in 5 minutes. Mr. Volkov is ready to bid. Cancel it. Dante's voice cut like steel. Sir? Cancel. The auction. Each word dropped with finality. The painting is a forgery. Have our people verify immediately and find out who authenticated it. The man's eyes widened fractionally, the only sign of surprise, before he nodded and disappeared. Dante's attention returned to me with an intensity that made my breath catch. You just made some very dangerous people very angry, Elena Russo. He stepped closer. Close enough that I had to crane my neck back. Close enough that I could feel the heat of him. Do you understand what you've done? Fear, and something else, something hot and reckless, twisted in my stomach. I told the truth. The truth. His hand lifted, and I fought the urge to step back as his fingers caught a strand of my dark hair that had escaped my ponytail. The truth in my world has consequences, the kind that don't disappear when you clock out of your catering shift. I couldn't. Let me? The almost smile returned, dangerous and devastating. No one lets me do anything, Piccola. But you... His thumb brushed my cheekbone, the touch feather-light and absolutely deliberate. You tried to protect me. How? Unexpected. Voices rose behind us. Angry, demanding. The auction was imploding, and I was at the center of it. Dante's expression hardened, the brief softness vanishing behind something cold and lethal. Marco, he called, and another man materialized. Take Miss Russo to my car. Now. Wait, what? No, you've just exposed a $100 million fraud in front of the 5 families, Elena. His eyes locked on mine, and I saw it then, the predator beneath the suit, the danger I'd sensed from across the room. You're coming with me, whether you want to or not. Before I could scream, protest, or run, Marco's hand closed around my arm, gentle but absolutely unyielding, and I was being guided through the crowd, away from the champagne and the fake Caravaggio and the life I'd known, toward a black Mercedes idling outside, toward a man whose world I'd just crashed into, toward danger I couldn't possibly understand. The last thing I saw before the car door closed was Dante Marchetti standing in the gallery entrance, his eyes tracking me through the tinted windows, his phone pressed to his ear, and the absolute certainty in his expression that said one thing clearly: you're mine now. The leather seats smelled like money and danger. I pressed against the door, my heart slamming against my ribs as the Mercedes glided through Manhattan traffic. Marco drove in silence, his eyes occasionally flicking to the rearview mirror where I sat frozen, my mind spinning through every terrible possibility. Kidnapped. I'd been kidnapped by the Mafia. My phone was still in my locker at the gallery. No one knew where I was. My roommate wouldn't expect me home for hours, and even then, Sarah barely looked up from her laptop most nights. Where are you taking me? My voice came out steadier than I felt. Marco didn't respond. His silence was somehow worse than threats would have been. We crossed into a part of the city I rarely visited, where old money met new power, where buildings had doormen who knew your name and your net worth. The car descended into an underground garage, pristine and empty except for a collection of vehicles that could have funded a small country. The door opened. I didn't move. Miss Russo. Marco's voice was professionally neutral. Mr. Marchetti is waiting. And if I refuse? His expression didn't change. Then I carry you. Your choice. I climbed out on shaking legs, my catering uniform suddenly feeling like a costume in the wrong play. Marco guided me to a private elevator, his hand light on my elbow but communicating absolute control. The elevator rose silently, and my ears popped as we climbed higher than I could count. The doors opened directly into a penthouse, floor-to-ceiling windows showcased, Manhattan sprawling below like a kingdom of light. The space was masculine and minimalist, dark wood, leather, steel, and glass. Abstract art I recognized from auction catalogs hung on the walls. Real art, pieces worth millions. And standing by the windows, phone still pressed to his ear, was Dante Marchetti. He'd removed his jacket. His white shirt was rolled to his forearms, revealing tanned skin and the edge of a tattoo I couldn't quite make out. He spoke in rapid Italian, his voice low and lethal. And even without understanding every word, I caught the threat in his tone. Someone was being dealt with, harshly. He ended the call and turned. Our eyes met across the space, and that same electric current from the gallery crackled between us. Leave us, Marco. The elevator doors closed, and I was alone with him. Sit. He gestured to a leather sofa. I'd rather stand. His eyebrow lifted fractionally. You just saved me from a significant loss, Elena. I'm not going to hurt you. You had me dragged out of the gallery and brought to, I gestured around, wherever this is. Forgive me for not feeling entirely safe. This is my home. He moved closer, and I hated how my body reacted, tension mixing with something hot and unwanted. And you were dragged out because the men behind that forgery would have had you killed before you made it to the subway. The words hit like ice water. Killed? For pointing out a fake painting? For exposing their scheme in front of every major crime family on the East Coast? He poured amber liquid into 2 glasses. The 5 families were all preparing to bid tonight. Someone planned to walk away with $100 million in fraudulent money. You destroyed that plan in 30 seconds. My legs suddenly felt weak. I sank onto the sofa. Dante handed me the glass. Whiskey. Drink. I did. The burn focusing my scattered thoughts. Who was behind it? That's what I'm finding out. He settled into the chair across from me, too graceful for a man his size. My people are analyzing the authentication documents now. Someone paid off the experts, bribed the gallery director, and planted a perfect forgery. That level of operation takes resources and connections. The 5 families, I repeated, the phrase sounding surreal in my mouth. You mean like actual Mafia families? His smile was dark. I mean exactly that, Piccola. Welcome to a world you were smart enough to stay out of until tonight. I should have been terrified. I was terrified, but underneath the fear, something else stirred curiosity, maybe, or insanity. Why did you believe me? You don't know me. I could have been wrong. Could you have been? His eyes held mine, seeing too much. No, then I wasn't taking that risk. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and the movement made him somehow more intimidating despite the casual pose. Tell me about yourself, Elena Russo. Master's degree in art history, serving champagne at gallery events. Your accent says New York, but your last name says Italian heritage. What's your story? That's really none of your... It became my business the moment you whispered in my ear. His voice dropped lower. Everything about you is now my business. So talk. The command in his tone made my spine stiffen. My father's family came from Calabria. I grew up in Queens. I wanted to work in museum curation. But the positions are competitive and don't pay enough to live on while you're establishing yourself. So I cater events and wait for opportunities. Your father? Dead. 6 years ago. Cancer. The words still hurt. My mother remarried and moved to Arizona. We don't talk much. Something shifted in his expression, not quite sympathy, but understanding. And now you're here, in my home, because you have an exceptional eye for art and no sense of self-preservation. I couldn't let you buy a fake. Why? He stood abruptly, moving to the windows, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the city lights. Why did you care if I lost $100 million? You don't know me. For all you knew, I deserved to be defrauded. I stood too, drawn across the room by something I couldn't name, because it was wrong, because someone created something beautiful even if it was a forgery and someone else was weaponizing it, because I stopped beside him, close enough to see his reflection in the glass, because you were looking at it like it mattered to you, like it was more than just money. He turned, and suddenly we were inches apart, the city sprawling below us, the air between us charged with danger and something far more complicated. You see too much, he murmured. So do you. His hand lifted, fingers tracing my jaw with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the lethal power I'd seen him wield. This world I live in, it's not romantic, Elena. It's blood and betrayal and choices that stain your soul. Once you're in, there's no going back to your catering shifts and student loans. My breath caught. Who says I'm in? The 5 families know your name now. The people behind the forgery will want revenge. His thumb brushed my lower lip, and heat exploded through my veins. You saved my life tonight, or at least my reputation, which in my world is the same thing. That means you're under my protection now, whether you want to be or not. I don't need... My phone buzzed, except I didn't have my phone. Dante pulled a device from his pocket, my phone. I realized with a start. Your roommate is worried. You should text her. You went through my things? I had Marco collect your belongings from the gallery. He handed me the phone, his fingers brushing mine. Text Sarah that you're safe. That you met someone and will be home late. Make it believable. I stared at him, torn torn between outrage and the disturbing realization that his protection might be the only thing keeping me alive. And then what? Then you stay here tonight. Tomorrow, we figure out who wants you dead. The casual way he said it, who wants you dead, made it real in a way nothing else had. I was in danger. Real, immediate, lethal danger. And the only thing standing between me and that danger was a man whose dark eyes promised he was equally deadly. A man I couldn't stop looking at, even knowing what he was. A man who terrified and drew me in equal measure. One night, I whispered. His smile was slow, dangerous, and absolutely devastating. We'll see, Piccola. We'll see. The elevator chimed. Marco stepped out, his expression grim. Boss, we have a problem. Viktor Volkov knows she's here, and he's demanding she be turned over for questioning. Dante's entire demeanor changed the man, replaced by something cold and lethal. Tell Volkov if he wants her. He can come take her himself. The threat hung in the air, absolute and terrifying, and I realized with crystal clarity that I'd just become the prize in a war I didn't understand. Absolutely not. Dante's voice cut through the penthouse like a blade as he faced Marco. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees, and I watched, frozen, as the two men engaged in a silent battle of wills. Volkov's insisting, Marco said carefully. He claims she worked with whoever planted the forgery, that her warning was designed to create chaos and tank the auction before his bid went through. That's insane, I burst out. I don't even know who Viktor Volkov is. Dante's hand lifted, silencing me without a word. Tell Volkov his concern is noted and dismissed. Elena Russo is under my personal protection. If he has questions, he brings them to me. Not through intermediaries, not through channels. To me. The emphasis on the last words made Marco nod sharply and retreat to the elevator. I waited until we were alone again before speaking. Who is Viktor Volkov, the head of the Russian syndicate in Brighton Beach? Dante moved to a desk, pulling out a tablet and pulling up. Security feeds. He's ambitious, ruthless, and has been pushing into territories that aren't his for the past year. Tonight's auction was supposed to be neutral ground, a showing of power and wealth between families. Your revelation disrupted that. So he thinks I'm some kind of, what? Corporate saboteur for the Mafia? Despite the tension, his mouth quirked. Something like that. In his mind, either you're working for whoever planted the forgery, or you're working for me to embarrass him publicly. But I'm not working for anyone. I know. He set the tablet down, his dark eyes finding mine across the room. Your fear is too real, your knowledge too specific. You're exactly what you appeared to be, a woman with expertise who couldn't keep quiet when she saw something wrong. Is that a compliment or an insult? It's an observation. He gestured to the hallway leading deeper into the penthouse. Come, if you're staying the night, you need clothes and a room that isn't under surveillance. I followed him down a corridor lined with more expensive art, my mind reeling. Your place is under surveillance? The public spaces, yes. Security measures. He opened a door, revealing a bedroom that was larger than my entire apartment. Plush carpet, a massive bed with charcoal linens, floor-to-ceiling windows with automated privacy screens. An ensuite bathroom I could glimpse through another doorway. This is the guest room. No cameras. You have my word. The word of a Mafia boss? The question escaped before I could stop it. He moved so fast I barely saw it suddenly. He was close. One hand braced against the doorframe beside my head, his body blocking mine without touching. Yes, Elena, the word of a Mafia boss, which, in my world, is worth more than any legal contract you've ever signed. His voice was low, intimate, dangerous. I don't break my promises. Ever. My heart hammered against my ribs. And what exactly are you promising? That you're safe here, that no one, not Volkov, not whoever planted that forgery, not anyone will touch you while you're under my protection. His free hand lifted, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear with surprising gentleness. But that protection comes with rules, such as, you don't leave without my knowledge. You don't contact anyone without clearing it with me first. You don't make any decisions about your safety without consulting me. His fingers trailed down my neck, leaving fire in their wake. And you tell me everything, Piccola. No secrets, no lies, complete honesty. That seems one-sided. It is. No apology in his tone. I'm the one keeping you alive. I make the rules. I should have been angry, terrified. Anything but what I actually felt a dangerous thrill at his proximity, at the absolute authority in his voice, at the way his body radiated heat and power. What if I refuse? I whispered. His smile was slow and predatory. Then I'll lock you in this room until you understand the danger you're in. But you're too smart for that, aren't you? You've already realized that stubborn pride isn't worth your life. He was right. God help me, he was right. Fine, I said, lifting my chin despite how my hands trembled. I'll follow your rules. For now. Good girl. The words sent heat straight through me, and from the knowing look in his eyes, he saw my reaction. There are clothes in the closet. My assistant had items brought up in your size. Toiletries in the bathroom. If you need anything, there's a phone on the nightstand that connects directly to the security desk. How did you know my size? I'm observant. He pushed off the door frame, stepping back, and I could breathe again. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start figuring out who's behind this and how deep it goes. He turned to leave, and I don't know what possessed me. Maybe the adrenaline, maybe the way he'd looked at me, maybe the insanity of the entire night, but I called out, "Dante?" He stopped, looking back over his shoulder. Thank you for protecting me, even if you're terrifying about it. Something softened in his expression, there and gone in a heartbeat. You saved me first, Piccola. I'm simply returning the favor. He paused at the doorway. And Elena? I'm far more terrifying when I'm not trying to be gentle. The door closed behind him, and I sagged against the wall, my knees suddenly weak. What had I gotten myself into? I moved to the windows, looking out at Manhattan glittering below. Somewhere out there, people wanted me dead for telling the truth. Somewhere out there, my normal life was continuing without me. Sarah probably thought I'd finally hooked up with someone at one of these events. My Monday shift at the coffee shop would happen, whether I was there or not. My tiny bedroom with its second-hand furniture would sit empty, and I was here, in a penthouse that cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime, under the protection of a man who commanded respect through fear and power, a man whose touch had set me on fire even as his words promised danger. I opened the closet, finding designer clothes with tags still attached. He hadn't been kidding, everything was exactly my size. Silk pajamas, casual wear, even a cocktail dress that probably cost more than my rent. A man who paid that much attention was either very thorough or very interested. Maybe both. I changed into the silk pajamas, navy blue, ridiculously soft, and was brushing my teeth with the provided toiletries when I heard voices. Raised voices. I cracked open the bedroom door. Don't care what Volkov wants. Dante's voice carried from the main room, cold and absolute. He's not getting near her. Boss. He's threatening to break the treaty. That was Marco. If this escalates, then it escalates. But I'm not handing over an innocent woman to satisfy his paranoia. She might not be innocent. The words hung in the air, and I held my breath. Explain, Dante commanded. Our people run her background. Elena Russo, 28. Masters from Columbia in art history with a focus on Italian Baroque. But here's the interesting part. Her father, Dominic Russo, had connections. Before he went legitimate, he was associated with the Calabrese family. Small time, but connected. My blood ran cold. My father's past was something my mother never discussed. Something I'd always suspected but never confirmed. Go on, Dante said, his voice giving nothing away. He left that life before Elena was born, moved to Queens, opened a restaurant, stayed clean. But the connections were there. It's possible someone approached her, used her knowledge and her father's old ties to plant her at that auction. No. Dante's response was immediate and certain. I watched her tonight. Her fear, her confusion, it's real. She had no idea what she was walking into. Or she's an exceptional actress. Silence stretched, painful and sharp. Then Dante's voice, low and dangerous. I've spent 15 years reading people, Marco. I know when I'm being played. Elena Russo is exactly what she appears to be, a woman with bad timing and good intentions. Her father's past doesn't change that. And if you're wrong, I'm not. Absolute certainty. But keep investigating. I want to know everything about her father's connections, who he worked with, who might remember the family name. If someone is using her, I want to know who and why. Understood. Footsteps approached, and I barely made it back to the bed before I heard my door open slightly. then close. He'd checked on me. I lay in the darkness, my mind spinning. My father had been connected to the Mafia, the man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd made terrible jokes and cried at my college graduation. He'd had a life before me that my mother had kept hidden, and now that past was reaching out, pulling me into a world he'd escaped. Or maybe the thought chilled me he'd never really escaped at all. Outside, the city lights glittered like fallen stars, beautiful and cold. And somewhere in this penthouse, Dante Marchetti was defending me based on instinct and 15 years of reading people in the deadliest business on earth. I should have been praying he was right. Instead, I found myself hoping for something far more dangerous. That tomorrow, when I saw him again, he'd look at me the way he had tonight, like I was worth protecting, worth believing in, worth the war he was risking. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of fresh coffee. For one disoriented moment, I thought I'd dreamed the entire night. Then I saw the designer pajamas I was wearing, felt the silk sheets against my skin, and reality crashed back. Mafia, forgery, protection, Dante. I found a robe hanging in the bathroom cashmere, naturally, and ventured out into the penthouse. Following the coffee scent led me to a kitchen that belonged in an architectural magazine. White marble, professional appliances, and a breakfast bar where Dante sat with a tablet, dressed in dark slacks and a white shirt, already looking like he'd conquered half the city before 8 a.m. "Good morning, Piccola." He glanced up, and his eyes tracked over me in the robe with an appreciation that made heat bloom under my skin. "I hope you slept well." I did, actually. Surprisingly true. Despite everything, that bed had been heaven. "Is that coffee?" He stood, moving to the espresso machine with practiced ease. "Cappuccino or straight espresso?" "You make coffee?" "I'm Sicilian. Making bad coffee is a crime punishable by family shame." The corner of his mouth lifted. "Cappuccino it is. You look like you need the milk." I settled onto a bar stool, watching as he moved through the kitchen with surprising domesticity. It was jarring, this glimpse of normalcy from a man who'd threatened wars over my safety hours earlier. "I heard you and Marco talking last night," I said quietly. "About my father." His hand stilled for just a moment before continuing. "You were supposed to be asleep. You were supposed to be quiet." I met his eyes when he turned. Was it true? About his connections? Dante set the perfect cappuccino in front of me. Leaf pattern in the foam and everything before leaning against the counter, arms crossed. Yes, Dominic Russo worked for the Calabrese family in his 20s. Enforcement, mostly. But he left that life 30 years ago, went legitimate, never looked back. By all accounts, he became exactly what he appeared to be, a good man running a restaurant in Queens. My mother never said anything. Would you have wanted her to? His eyes held understanding, not judgment. Your father protected you from that world, Elena. He made sure you never had to know about his past. That's admirable. I wrapped my hands around the warm cup. Marco thinks someone might be using me, using my father's old connections. Marco is paid to be paranoid. Dante moved closer, leaning against the breakfast bar beside me. But he's also good at his job, which is why I have him investigating. If someone approached you because of your father's name, we'll find out. No one approached me. I looked up at him, needing him to believe me. I took that catering job because I needed money. I noticed the forgery because of my education. That's all. I know. His hand lifted, fingers tilting my chin up. I told you last night I know when I'm being played. You're not playing anyone, Piccola. You're just caught in the middle of something bigger than yourself. The way he looked at me, intense, possessive, protective, made my breath catch. What happens now? Now we find out who planted that forgery and why. My people have been working all night. He glanced at his tablet. The authentication documents were expertly forged. The gallery director received payments through offshore accounts, and the painting itself was created by someone with exceptional skill, probably trained at one of the European academies. That's a short list, I said, my academic brain engaging despite the situation. Master's level forgery of Baroque technique? There are maybe 20 people in the world capable of that work. His eyes sharpened. Can you make a list? Probably. I'd need access to academic databases, forgery case histories. Done. He pushed the tablet toward me. You have full access to anything you need. My assistant can get you into any database, any archive. Use it. I stared at the tablet, then at him. You trust me with this? You saved me from $100 million fraud, Elena. Yes, I trust you with a tablet. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. Besides, keeping you busy keeps you safe. The more valuable you are to this investigation, the more reason I have to protect you from people like Volkov. That's manipulative. That's practical. No apology. And it's true. The 5 families need to see you as an asset, not a liability. Help me find who did this, and you become untouchable. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened. We have a meeting in an hour. The 5 families are gathering to discuss the situation. The 5 families? My stomach dropped. You mean, I mean the heads of every major organization on the East Coast. He straightened. All business now. They want answers about the forgery, and they want to see you. Verify your story. Assess the threat. Dante, I can't, I'm not. You'll be fine. He moved around the breakfast bar, his hands coming to rest on my shoulders. Warm and steady. I'll be with you the entire time. You tell them exactly what you told me, the technical details about the forgery. Answer their questions honestly. And stay close to me. Why are you doing this? The question escaped before I could stop it. Why risk so much for someone you just met? His hands tightened fractionally on my shoulders and something flickered in his dark eyes. Something raw and unguarded. Because you're the first person in 15 years who's tried to protect me instead of use me. Because you looked at me like I was worth saving. His thumb traced my collarbone through the robe. And because the moment you whispered in my ear last night, something in me recognized something in you. I don't question those instincts anymore, Elena. They've kept me alive too long. The confession hung between us, intimate and dangerous. Now, he said, stepping back before I could process his words. Go get dressed. Wear the black dress in the closet, the one with the high neckline. Conservative but expensive. We need them to see you as an expert, not a distraction. A distraction? His eyes raked over me slowly, deliberately. You're beautiful, Piccola. In a room full of predators, that's a weapon. But today, we need them focused on your mind, not your body. So cover up, look professional, and let them see that brilliant woman who spotted something dozens of experts missed. Heat flooded through me, part embarrassment, part something far more dangerous. And what will you be doing? Making it very clear that touching you means war. His smile was cold and lethal. Now go. We leave in 45 minutes. I fled to the bedroom, my heart racing. An hour from now, I'd be facing the leaders of the East Coast Mafia, with only Dante Marchetti standing between me and whatever judgment they'd pass. And the terrifying part wasn't just the danger. It was how much I already trusted him to keep me safe. How much I was beginning to want more than just his protection. The restaurant was closed to the public. That was the first thing I noticed as Dante's Mercedes pulled up to what looked like an upscale Italian establishment in Little Italy. The second thing I noticed was the men standing outside armed, watching, communicating through earpieces. This is neutral territory, Dante explained, his hand warm on my lower back as he guided me from the car. The Giordano family owns it. They host meetings between families when necessary. How often is it necessary? Not often enough if we're doing our jobs right. He nodded to one of the guards, who opened the door. Stay close to me, Elena. Speak when spoken to. Answer questions directly and honestly. And no matter what you hear or see, don't react. These men read fear like I read art catalogs. I smoothed the black dress he'd chosen. He was right. It was perfect. High neckline, long sleeves, hitting just above the knee. Expensive but not flashy. My hair was pulled back in a sleek bun, minimal makeup. I looked like an academic consultant, which was exactly the point. Inside, the restaurant was beautiful old-world Italian charm with modern elegance. But the men gathered around the large table in the private back room destroyed any illusion of a social lunch. 5 men, 5 chairs, 5 expressions ranging from curiosity to cold. Assessment. Marchetti, the man at the head of the table, spoke older, silver-haired, with eyes that had seen everything and been impressed by nothing. You're late. By 3 minutes, Giordano. Hardly worth noting. Dante's hand pressed against my back, urging me forward. Gentlemen, this is Elena Russo, the art expert who identified the forgery. 5 pairs of eyes turned to me. I fought the urge to step back. Miss Russo. Giordano gestured to an empty chair. Please sit. We have questions. Dante pulled out the chair, waiting until I sat before taking his own position standing behind me, one hand resting on the back of my chair, claiming territory, showing protection. I'll stand, he said when Giordano raised an eyebrow. A man to my left, younger, with Slavic features and cold blue eyes, leaned forward. Viktor Volkov, I realized. The Russian who thought I was part of the scheme. Tell us, Miss Russo, how exactly did you spot this forgery? A painting authenticated by 3 internationally recognized experts? The experts authenticated what they were paid to authenticate, I said, keeping my voice steady. But their credentials don't override physical evidence. The cracklier pattern, the cracks in aged paint, was mechanically induced, probably through controlled heating and cooling cycles. It's a common forgery technique, but it creates patterns too uniform for natural aging. How do you know this? Another man, Mediterranean features, expensive suit, calculating eyes. I have a master's degree in art history from Columbia, with a specialization in Italian Baroque period. I spent 2 years in Florence studying under Professor Marcus Chen, who literally wrote the textbook on Caravaggio's technique in forgery detection. I pulled out my phone. Dante had returned it that morning and showed images I'd pulled up. These are comparative examples. Here's a verified Caravaggio painting showing natural craquelure. Here's a known forgery from 2019 showing mechanical patterns. And here's what I saw last night, identical to the forgery pattern. Silence fell as they examined the images. Giordano leaned back in his chair. Impressive. But the question remains, how did you happen to be at that specific gallery, at that specific auction, at that exact moment? Bad luck and student loans, I said flatly. I work catering jobs to pay rent while I apply for museum curator positions. The agency I work for was hired for the event. I was serving champagne. That's all. Your father was Dominic Russo. Volkov's voice cut like ice. Associated with the Calabrese family before you were born. Interesting that his daughter shows up just in time to disrupt an auction worth hundreds of millions. Dante's hand tightened on the back of my chair. Her father left that life 30 years ago and died 6 years ago. Elena knew nothing about his past connections until last night. So you say. Volkov's eyes never left mine. But family ties run deep in our world, Marchetti. You of all people know this. My father was a good man, I said, meeting Volkov's stare directly. Whatever he did before I was born, he spent the rest of his life being a legitimate businessman and a devoted father. He never mentioned his past, never exposed me to that world. I found out about his connections 12 hours ago from a background check. So yes, I'm his daughter. But no, I'm not carrying on any family legacy except his love of Italian art. A man at the far end, older, with kind eyes that contrasted with the power in his bearing, spoke for the first time. The girl speaks plainly. I appreciate that. He looked at Dante. What's your assessment, Marchetti? Is she legitimate? Completely, Dante said without hesitation. I've had her investigated thoroughly. She's exactly what she appears to be, an expert who noticed something wrong and couldn't stay quiet. Her timing was coincidental, not planned. Coincidences make me nervous, Volkov muttered. Then be nervous, Dante replied coolly. But she's under my protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me. The temperature in the room dropped. Giordano raised an eyebrow. That's a significant commitment, Marchetti. Based on one night's acquaintance. Based on instinct and evidence. Both of which tell me she's an asset, not a threat. Dante's hand moved from the chair to my shoulder, a possessive gesture that didn't go unnoticed. She can identify the forger. She has connections to academic databases and expertise we don't possess. Use her knowledge instead of questioning her loyalty. If she can identify the forger, the man with kind eyes said, then she's worth protecting. We all lost potential profits last night. Someone made us look foolish. I want them found. Murmurs of agreement around the table. Giordano studied me for a long moment. Very well, Miss Russo. You have 3 days to provide us with a list of potential forgers and evidence supporting your conclusions. Marchetti will provide whatever resources you need. If your information leads us to who's responsible, you'll have the gratitude and protection of the 5 families. If you're playing us... His eyes went cold. Well, let's hope you're not. I'm not, I said, lifting my chin. I just want to help fix what I disrupted. Admirable. Giordano stood, signaling the meeting's end. 3 days, Miss Russo. Marchetti, Keep us informed. Dante guided me out of the restaurant, his hand never leaving my back until we were in the Mercedes and pulling away from the curb. Then he exhaled, the tension leaving his shoulders. You did well, Piccola. Very well. I was terrified. You hit it perfectly. He pulled me against his side, and I let myself sink into his warmth, the adrenaline crash hitting hard. 3 days. Can you identify the forger in 3 days? Maybe. Probably. I looked up at him. Dante, what happens if I can't? His jaw tightened. Then we find another way to prove your innocence. But failure isn't an option, Elena. Not when your life depends on success. The weight of it settled over me. 3 days to prove myself to the 5 families. 3 days to find a master forger. 3 days under Dante Marchetti's protection. 3 days of being this close to a man who terrified and attracted me in equal measure. Then I better get to work, I whispered. His arm tightened around me. We better get to work. You're not doing this alone. And in that moment, surrounded by danger and impossible deadlines, I made a choice. I trusted him. God help me. I trusted the Mafia boss whose world I'd stumbled into, and that trust felt more dangerous than any threat the 5 families could make. We worked through the afternoon and into the evening. Dante had converted one of his penthouse rooms into a command center, multiple monitors displaying databases, art archives, and forgery case histories. I sat at the main computer, cross-referencing techniques and expertise, while Dante made calls, pulling strings I couldn't begin to understand to get me access to restricted files. Here. He set down a plate of pasta carbonara beside my keyboard around 8 p.m. You need to eat. I need to finish this analysis of weight. Did you cook this? No, I had it brought in from... He paused at my expression. Yes, I cooked it. Sicilian mother. No son of hers survives without knowing how to make proper pasta. I took a bite, and flavor exploded on my tongue. This is incredible. I have many skills, Piccola. He settled into the chair beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. What have you found? I pulled up my working document. 7 possible candidates. All have the technical skill. All have created Baroque forgeries before, and all have recently been connected to underground art markets. Narrow it down. I'm trying. But I need more information: financial records, travel histories, connections to auction houses. I turned to face him. This isn't just about artistic skill, Dante. Someone coordinated the authentication fraud, bribed gallery officials, and timed this auction to maximize damage. That takes resources and connections beyond what a single forger usually has. His eyes sharpened. You think someone's backing the forger? I think someone's using the forger as a weapon. This wasn't about the money. If it was, they would have sold the painting quietly to a private collector. This was about embarrassing the 5 families publicly, about causing chaos, a power play. He stood, pacing to the windows overlooking Manhattan. Someone trying to prove they can operate under our noses. Or someone trying to start a war. I saved my work and joined him at the window. Think about it. If you'd paid $100 million for a fake, how would you have reacted? I would have found who was responsible and made an example of them. His voice was flat, matter of fact. And if Viktor Volkov had purchased it, or any of the other families? Understanding crossed his face. They would have blamed each other, assumed one family set up another. The treaty between families would have collapsed. Exactly. Someone wanted chaos. They just didn't count on me noticing the forgery first. He turned to me, his expression shifting from cold calculation to something warmer. You saved more than my money, Elena. You prevented a war. I didn't mean to. No, you just couldn't stay quiet when you saw something wrong. His hand lifted, cupping my face with surprising gentleness. That quality that's going to either get you killed or make you legendary. My breath caught. We were standing too close, the city lights casting shadows across his face, his dark eyes holding mine with an intensity that made my pulse race. Dante. His phone buzzed. He cursed softly in Italian before answering. What? A pause. When? Another pause. And his expression went cold. Double the security. No one gets near her. I'll be down in 5 minutes. He ended the call, and I saw the shift the man I'd been working with replaced by the dangerous Mafia boss I'd first encountered. What happened? Someone tried to access my building's security systems. Sophisticated attempt, nearly successful. His hand moved to my elbow, guiding me toward the bedroom I'd stayed in. You're staying here tonight. Tomorrow we move you somewhere more secure. Move me? I thought this place was... It was. His jaw was tight. Now they know you're here. That makes it a target. Fear spiked through me. Who are they? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. We reached my bedroom, and he did a quick sweep checking windows, exits, ensuring everything was secure. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or Marco. If anything happens, anything at all, hit the panic button on the nightstand. It connects directly to my personal line and triggers a full security lockdown. You're scaring me. He crossed back to me, in 2 strides, his hands framing my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Good. Fear keeps you careful. But know this, Elena, no one is getting to you. Not Volkov, not whoever planted that forgery, not anyone. I protect what's mine. I'm not yours, I whispered, even as my body betrayed me, leaning into his touch. His thumb traced my lower lip, and his eyes darkened. Aren't you? You've been in my home, wearing my clothes, under my protection for 24 hours. You trusted me enough to face the 5 families. You're working beside me to solve this. Tell me, Piccola, at what point do you stop being a stranger and start being mine? I couldn't answer, couldn't think past the heat of his hands on my skin, the certainty in his voice, the dangerous promise in his eyes. Lock the door, he repeated, his voice rough. I'll be back soon. He left before I could respond, and I heard his footsteps receding down the hall. I locked the door with shaking hands, my heart pounding. This was insane. All of it. I was trapped in a penthouse with a Mafia boss who looked at me like I was something precious and dangerous. People were actively trying to get to me. I had 3 days to solve a case that could prevent a war. And the worst part? I didn't want to leave. I changed into the silk pajamas, trying to process everything, but exhaustion pulled at me, and eventually I climbed into bed, the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling. I don't know how long I'd been asleep when I heard it, a soft sound, barely there. My eyes snapped open. The door lock clicked. Panic surged, and my hand flew to the nightstand, searching for the panic button. It's me. Dante's voice, low and rough. It's just me, Elena. I sagged with relief as he appeared in the doorway, backlit by the hall light. He'd removed his jacket, his white shirt partially unbuttoned, and there was something in his expression, something raw and unguarded. What happened? We found them. The team that tried to breach security. He moved into the room slowly, like he was approaching something wild. 2 hired mercenaries. They confessed that someone paid them to get to you, to take you alive. Terror gripped me. Who? They don't know. Anonymous contact, offshore payment, professional operation. He stopped at the foot of the bed. Elena, this is bigger than a forgery. Someone wants you specifically, and until we know why, you're not safe anywhere but with me. I'm not safe anywhere, I corrected, my voice shaking. I'm just an art historian. Why would anyone? I don't know yet. He moved closer, sitting on the edge of the bed. But I will find out. I promise you. We sat in the darkness, the weight of it pressing down. Why are you really doing this? I asked quietly. The truth, Dante. Not the strategic reasons or the obligation. Why are you risking so much for me? He was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, because when I was 17, I watched a woman try to protect my father during a family war. She wasn't part of our world, just someone who loved him. And she died because he couldn't protect her fast enough. His voice was rough with old pain. I swore I'd never let that happen again. That if I ever found someone worth protecting, I wouldn't hesitate. Wouldn't calculate the cost. We barely know each other. I know you tried to save me from losing $100 million when you had nothing to gain. I know you faced the 5 families without breaking. I know you're brilliant and brave and stubborn enough to tell a Mafia boss when he's wrong. His hand found mine in the darkness. And I know that when I look at you, I see something worth protecting, worth fighting for. Is that enough truth for you, Piccola? My throat tightened. That's terrifying. Yes. His fingers threaded through mine. It is. We sat like that, hands linked in the darkness, while the city breathed outside and danger circled closer. And I realized with stunning clarity that I was falling for him. For the deadly, protective, impossibly complex man who'd stolen me away from a gallery and refused to let me go. This was more than attraction now. This was dangerous. This was real. Morning came with screaming. I jerked awake to shouting, the sound of running footsteps, and Dante's voice cutting through the chaos, cold, lethal, absolute. I threw on the robe and rushed out, my heart in my throat. The living room had transformed into something from a crime thriller. Marco and 3 other men surrounded someone on the floor. A woman, I realized, beaten and bloodied, zip-tied and terrified. And Dante stood over her like an avenging angel, his white shirt stained with blood that I prayed wasn't his. "Talk," he commanded. "Now." I can't." The woman's voice broke. "He'll kill me. I'll kill you if you don't." No emotion, just fact. "Who hired you to infiltrate the gallery staff? Who told you to poison the champagne? Meant for Elena Russo?" My blood turned to ice. The champagne. I'd been carrying champagne. I'd been about to serve it before I stopped to warn Dante about the painting. Someone had tried to kill me at the auction. "His name is..." The woman choked. "His name is Konstantin. Konstantin Fedorov. He's Volkov's lieutenant. He paid me $50,000 to poison her drink. Said she was disrupting business. Said she needed to disappear quietly." Dante's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room dropped to Arctic. "Volkov ordered a hit on someone under my protection?" "Not Volkov directly, Fedorov acted alone. He thinks he said Volkov was too cautious, that the Russian syndicate needs to show strength, that letting Marchetti protect some nobody was making them look weak." "A nobody." Dante's voice was silken with danger. "Interesting." He turned, and his eyes found mine across the room. The cold calculation in them shifted immediately, warming, softening, but still edged with violence. "Go back to the bedroom, Elena. You don't need to see this." "What are you going to... now?" The command brooked no argument. Marco appeared at my elbow. "Come on, Miss Russo. Let the boss work." I let him guide me back, my hands shaking. The bedroom door closed, and I heard muffled voices, then silence. 10 minutes later, Dante entered. He'd changed his shirt, washed the blood off his hands, but there was still something dangerous in his bearing, the predator barely leashed. "Is she... she's alive. I don't kill women, no matter what they've done." He crossed to me, his hands gentle despite the violence they'd just enacted. "But she's been delivered to the Giordano family for judgment. They'll handle her according to the rules." "The rules." My voice sounded hollow. "There are rules for this? There are always rules, Piccola, even in chaos." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "You were supposed to die that night. The poisoned champagne would have killed you, before you left the gallery. They would have blamed bad shellfish or a heart condition. Just another tragic accident. But I didn't drink it. I stopped to warn you first. You stopped to warn me first," he repeated softly. "You saved your own life by trying to save mine. The irony isn't lost on me." I sank onto the bed, the reality crashing over me. Volkov's man tried to have me killed. What happens now? Now I make it very clear that such actions have consequences. His phone buzzed, and he glanced at it. "The 5 families are meeting in 2 hours. Emergency session. Volkov's going to answer for his lieutenant's actions." "You think he knew?" "I think it doesn't matter. In our world, you're responsible for your people. If Fedorov acted without orders, Volkov still pays the price for failing to control his organization." He knelt in front of me, bringing us eye level. "Elena, this meeting won't be like the last one. It's going to get violent. I can't have you there." "Then, where? I'm moving you to a safe house. One of my private properties, off the books. Marco will stay with you, along with a full security team. You'll continue working on the forger identification, but you'll be hidden until this is resolved." Fear and frustration warred in my chest. "How long?" "However long it takes." His hands cupped my face. "I can't protect you and wage war simultaneously, Piccola. I need to know you're safe so I can focus on ending this." "Ending this how?" His smile was cold. "By reminding Viktor Volkov why people don't move against the Marchetti family, why my protection means something, and why touching what's mine is the last mistake anyone makes." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened me. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in my belly. "I'm not helpless," I said quietly. "I can. I know you're not helpless. You're brilliant and capable and far stronger than you realize." He leaned forward, his forehead touching mine. "But strength doesn't stop bullets, Elena. Intelligence doesn't prevent kidnapping. So please, for me, do this. Let me keep you safe while I handle what needs to be handled. I'd never heard him say please before. Okay, I whispered. Okay. Relief flashed across his face, there and gone. Good. We leave in 20 minutes. Pack what you need, Marco will get you anything else. He stood to leave, but I caught his hand. Dante, be careful. Please. Something softened in his eyes. Always. He lifted my hand, pressing a kiss to my palm. And Elena, when this is over, when you're safe and the threat is eliminated, we're going to talk about this thing between us. This fire that's been building since you whispered in my ear at that gallery. Because it's not going away, and I'm done pretending I can ignore it. He left before I could respond, leaving me breathless and aching. 20 minutes later, I was in the back of an unmarked SUV with Marco, watching Dante's penthouse disappear in the distance. The safe house was in Connecticut, an old estate hidden behind gates and security that would make Fort Knox jealous. He'll be fine, Marco said, catching my worried glance back toward the city. The boss has survived worse than Volkov. How long have you worked for him? 12 years, since I was 23 and stupid enough to get caught stealing cars in his territory. Marco's mouth quirked. He gave me a choice: work for him or get turned over to the police. Best decision I ever made. He's not what I expected. No one is when you actually know them. Marco glanced at me. But for what it's worth, I've never seen him like this. Protective, yes, always. But this thing with you, it's different. Personal. We barely know each other. Some people, you know, instantly. The boss has good instincts about people. If he's claimed you, it's because he sees something worth keeping. Claimed. The word sent shivers through me. The safe house was beautiful, old stone, and new. Security, with grounds that stretched to a private lake. My room had a view of the water and a computer setup that would let me continue researching. But as I watched the sun set over Connecticut, my mind was back in Manhattan, where Dante Marchetti was walking into a room full of dangerous men, to defend me, to wage war for me, and I realized that somewhere between being kidnapped from a gallery and sharing midnight confessions, I'd stopped being his responsibility and become something far more dangerous. I'd become someone he cared about, someone worth fighting for, someone he might even... My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The painting was just the beginning. Tell Marchetti the real game hasn't started yet. We're coming for what he values most. Below it, a photo. Of me. Taken through the safe house window. Minutes ago. They'd found me already. I was dialing Dante before I could think. My hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the phone. He answered on the first. Elena, they found me. They sent a photo. They're here, Dante. They're... Get to Marco now. Go. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. But they weren't Marco's. The bedroom door exploded inward. And the last thing I heard before everything went black was Dante's voice screaming my name through the phone. I woke to darkness and pain. My head throbbed where something had struck me. My wrists burned zip-tied, I realized through the fog. I was sitting in a chair, in what looked like an abandoned warehouse, with a single light hanging overhead like something from a bad movie. Except this was real. The blood dried on my temple was real. The fear clawing up my throat was real. And the man standing in the shadows watching me was very, very real. Miss Russo, finally. His accent was Russian, cultured. He stepped into the light 50s, expensive suit, cold eyes. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but you've been rather difficult to acquire. Who are you? Konstantin. Fedorov. We have mutual complications. He circled my chair slowly. You disrupted a very expensive operation. You cost powerful people a great deal of money, and you've captured the attention of Dante Marchetti in a way that makes you extremely valuable. Volkov's lieutenant. My voice steadied despite my terror. The one who tried to poison me. The very same, though I prefer to think of that as a business decision, not personal. He stopped in front of me. You see, Miss Russo, I've been planning something for a very long time. A restructuring of power on the East Coast. The forgery was meant to fracture the 5 families, create chaos, allow new leadership to emerge. Your leadership. Precisely. But then you noticed something you shouldn't have. You saved Marchetti, and worse, you made him care about you. His smile was cruel. Do you know how rare that is? Dante Marchetti doesn't care about people. He uses them, protects them strategically, maintains alliances. But care? Feel something real? That hasn't happened in 15 years. My mind raced, trying to understand. Why does that matter? Because caring makes him weak, predictable. And right now, he's tearing apart Manhattan trying to find you. He's abandoned the emergency meeting with the families. He's made threats that will start wars. All for one art historian he's known for 3 days. Fedorov leaned close. You've become his weakness, Miss Russo, and I intend to use that. He'll kill you. I said it with certainty. When he finds me. If he finds you, this location is known only to me and my men. No paper trail, no connection to Volkov or anyone else. We're in international waters, metaphorically speaking. My blood ran cold. What do you want? I want Dante Marchetti to make a choice. He pulled out his phone, setting up a camera. I want him to choose between you and his power, between saving one woman and maintaining his position with the 5 families. Because the moment he shows weakness, the moment he compromises for personal reasons, his enemies will strike. His empire will crumble, and I'll be there to pick up the pieces. You're insane. I'm practical. He hit record on the camera. Now, Miss Russo, you're going to help me deliver a message. You're going to tell Dante Marchetti exactly where his priorities should lie. And if he's smart, he'll let you go and maintain his power. If he's foolish, well, then everyone loses. The camera's red light blinked, and I realized with stunning clarity that Fedorov had miscalculated. He thought Dante would sacrifice me for power, that his position mattered more than one person, that caring about me was a weakness to exploit. But he didn't understand the man I'd come to know. Dante Marchetti didn't do anything halfway. His protection was absolute, his promises were unbreakable, and his revenge would be legendary. No, I said clearly. I'm not delivering your message. Fedorov's expression hardened. I wasn't. Asking, you think you know him. You think you understand how his world works. But you don't. I met the camera's eye directly. Dante, if you're watching this, don't you dare negotiate. Don't you dare compromise. Do what needs to be done. End this. And know that I trust you to find me. Because you promised you'd protect me. And I believe you. Fedorov's hand cracked across my face. Pain exploded, and blood filled my mouth. But I didn't break eye contact with the camera. Tell the 5 families everything, I continued, my voice thick. About the forgery. About Fedorov's plan to fracture the alliance. About Volkov's lieutenant operating without sanction. Unite them. Then come for me with all the power you command. No mercy, no compromise. Fedorov stopped the recording, his face red with rage. You stupid girl, you've just signed your death warrant. Maybe. I spit blood on his expensive shoes. But I've also ended your plan. Because Dante's not going to choose between me and power. He's going to have both. And you're going to learn why people don't cross the Marchetti family. He raised his hand again. The warehouse door exploded inward. Gunfire erupted. Men shouted. Fedorov dove for cover as his security team engaged multiple someones storming the building. Through the chaos, I saw him. Dante Marchetti, moving like death itself. A gun in one hand, an absolute fury in his eyes. Marco and a dozen other men fanned out behind him, professional and lethal. The battle was over in 90 seconds. Fedorov's men were on the ground dead or disabled. And Dante was crossing the warehouse floor toward me, holstering his weapon, his focus laser sharp. Elena. My name came out rough as he reached me, his hands immediately working on the zip ties. Are you hurt? Did he... I'm okay. The ties came free, and I collapsed forward into his chest, shaking. How did you find me? Traced your phone's last ping, cross-referenced Fedorov's known. Properties, followed the evidence you left. His arms wrapped around me, strong and sure. You told him to record you. You knew I'd find the transmission. I knew you'd find me. I trusted you. His hold tightened. You took a hell of a risk, Piccola. So did you. The 5 families are united. His voice held grim satisfaction. When they saw Fedorov's recording, when they understood the scope of his betrayal, the families aligned against him. Even Volkov. Fedorov wasn't just targeting me. He was targeting all of us. You exposed that. Where is he? I pulled back enough to look around. Dante's smile was cold. Marco's handling him. He'll face the family's judgment. But first, I'm getting you somewhere safe. Somewhere actually secure this time. He lifted me, simply scooped me up like I weighed nothing, and carried me toward the waiting cars. Dante, not now. Right now, you're going to let me take you somewhere safe. You're going to let a doctor check that head wound. You're going to eat and rest and recover. His eyes met mine, dark and intense. And then, when you're safe and healthy and the threat is eliminated, you and I are going to have that conversation I promised you. The one about this fire between us. My breath caught. What if I don't want to wait? His arms tightened around me. Elena, you said I'm yours. You called me yours. So prove it. I reached up, my fingers threading through his hair. Show me what that means. We reached his car. He set me down but didn't step back, his body caging mine against the vehicle. You're hurt. You've been traumatized. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. I pulled him closer, our faces inches apart. I trusted you with my life, Dante. Trust me with this. With wanting you. With choosing you. Something broke in his control. His mouth crashed against mine. The kiss was fire and fury, and 3 days of suppressed need finally breaking free. Dante's hands framed my face, his mouth claiming mine with a hunger that made my knees weak. I gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, tasting blood and danger and something achingly tender underneath his fierce control. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead pressed against mine. This is insane, he murmured. You were just kidnapped. We're standing in front of my men. I don't care. I kissed him again, softer this time. I don't care about timing or logic or what anyone thinks. I care about you. About this. About not wasting whatever time we have pretending I don't feel this. His thumb traced my swollen lip gently. Elena. Take me home, Dante. You're home. And show me what it means to be yours. The darkness in his eyes shifted to heat. You're hurt. Then be gentle. I met his stare without flinching. But don't make me wait any longer. Please. The please broke him. He opened the car door, settling me into the back seat before climbing in beside me. Marco, my private residence. Lose anyone following us, and make sure we're not disturbed for the next 24 hours. Marco's knowing smile was visible in the rearview mirror. Understood, boss. The drive back to Manhattan passed in charged silence. Dante's hand never left mine, his thumb tracing patterns on my palm that sent electricity up my arm. Every few minutes, his eyes would track to my face, checking the bruise forming on my cheekbone, the split lip, the dried blood in my hair. You're thinking too loud, I said softly. I'm thinking that Fedorov's death won't be quick enough. Dark promise in his voice. That letting Marco handle him, instead of doing it myself, might have been a mistake. You saved me. That's what matters. You saved yourself. That speech you gave on camera, his hand tightened on mine. You told me to unite the families, to come for you with full power. You trusted me to choose right. Did you doubt I would? Everyone doubts me eventually, Piccola. They see the power, the violence, the darkness. They forget there's a man underneath. His eyes held mine. You never forgot. From that first moment at the gallery, you've seen both. The boss and the man. And you haven't run. I'm not running now. No, you're not. He lifted my hand, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. Which makes you either the bravest woman I've ever met, or the most foolish. Maybe both. The car pulled into his building's private garage. Dante swept me up again, carrying me to the elevator despite my protests. But I stopped arguing when I realized I liked it. Liked being held by him, cared for by him, treated like something precious, instead of just protected. His penthouse felt different now. Not a prison or a safe house, but a sanctuary. He carried me straight to his bedroom, not the guest room. His, and set me gently on the massive bed. Stay there. I'm getting the first aid kit. He returned quickly, settling beside me with supplies. His hands were surprisingly gentle as he cleaned the blood from my face, applied butterfly bandages to the cut on my cheekbone, checked my pupils for concussion signs. You should see a real doctor, he murmured, tilting my head to examine the bump where I'd been hit. Later. Right now, I just want... I caught his wrist, pulling his hand to my lips, kissing his palm. I want you. No more talking about what I should do or what's logical. Just be with me. His control wavered. Elena, Dante. I shifted, kneeling on the bed to face him fully. I know what I'm asking for. I know what you are. And I'm choosing this anyway. Choosing you. So please, Stop trying to protect me from myself, and just... He kissed me. Slower this time, deeper, his hands sliding into my hair as he guided me back against the pillows. His weight settled over me, careful of my injuries, and I wrapped my arms around him. Finally feeling the full strength of him against me. Tell me if I hurt you, he whispered against my throat. You won't. His laugh was low and rough. So certain, Piccola? Of you? Yes. I tugged at his shirt, wanting the barriers gone. Always. Clothes disappeared slowly, carefully, his hands mapping every inch of exposed skin like he was memorizing me. When his mouth followed the path of his fingers, I gasped, arching into him. Beautiful, he murmured against my stomach. You're so goddamn beautiful. And brave. And mine. Yours, I agreed breathlessly. Show me what that means. He did. With hands that could kill but touched me with reverence. With lips that delivered lethal orders but now whispered praise against my skin. With a body that represented violence and power but moved with me like we were dancing. When he finally joined us together, his eyes locked on mine, dark and intense and absolutely present. Elena, he breathed. My Elena. And I shattered, his name on my lips, his arms around me, his heart thundering against mine. After we lay tangled together, the city lights, painting patterns on the ceiling. His fingers traced lazy circles on my spine while I mapped the scars on his chest, reminders of a violent life I was choosing to be part of. I don't know how to do this, he said quietly. Relationships, caring about someone beyond strategy and alliance. I'm probably going to be terrible at it. I lifted my head, meeting his eyes. Then we'll figure it out together. Make our own rules. What if my world destroys you? What if I make your world better? I kissed his shoulder. You said I'm yours. That means you're also mine, and I'm not letting you face everything alone anymore. His arms tightened around me. Dangerous words, Piccola. You like danger. His laugh rumbled through his chest. With you? Always. We stayed like that for hours, talking, touching, learning each other beyond the crisis that had brought us together. He told me about growing up in Sicily, about the family he'd lost, about the choices that had made him who he was. I told him about my father, about dreams I'd abandoned, about the fear of being ordinary that had driven me to notice a fake painting. Not ordinary, Dante murmured against my hair as exhaustion finally pulled at me. Never ordinary. You're extraordinary, Elena Russo. And you're mine. And you're mine, I whispered back, already half asleep. My dangerous, impossible, perfect man. His kiss against my temple was achingly gentle, and for the first time since that fateful night at the gallery, I felt truly safe. Not because of his security measures or his threats to enemies, but because I knew, bone deep, that he'd move heaven and hell to protect what we'd found together. This dangerous, impossible love that had bloomed in darkness. This connection that defied logic and timing and every rule of his world. This choice we'd both made to trust, to risk, to surrender to something bigger than danger or fear. As I drifted off in his arms, I heard him whisper one last promise. No one touches you. Again. Ever. You're mine, and I protect what's mine. Always. And I believed him. Morning light woke me to the smell of coffee, and the distant sound of Dante speaking Italian on the phone. His voice low, commanding, absolutely in control. I stretched in his bed, wearing one of his shirts, feeling deliciously sore in all the right places. The past 3 days felt surreal, like I'd lived an entire lifetime compressed into hours of terror and passion. The bedroom door opened. Dante entered carrying a tray with cappuccino and pastries, already dressed in a dark suit but with his tie loose around his neck. Good morning, Piccola. He set the tray on the nightstand and bent to kiss me soft. Lingering. Perfect. How do you feel? Like I was kidnapped, rescued, and thoroughly ravished. I grinned against his mouth. So basically perfect. His laugh was genuine, warming his usually guarded eyes. Your ability to find humor in trauma is concerning. Your overprotective brooding is concerning. I pulled him down beside me. What's happening? With the families? With Fedorov? His expression sobered. Fedorov's being tried by the council today. The families are united in judgment. His actions threatened all of us. He'll answer for attempting to fracture the alliance, for the forgery scheme, for trying to kill you. And Volkov? Proved his lieutenant acted without sanction. He's paid reparations and restructured his organization to prevent future rogue operations. Dante's hand cupped my bruised cheek gently. You're safe, Elena. The threat is eliminated. Relief and something else. Something complicated twisted in my chest. So, what happens now? Do I go back to my apartment? My catering jobs? His eyes darkened. Is that what you want? I'm asking what you want. I want. He stood abruptly, pacing to the windows. I want you to stay. Here, with me. I want to wake up to you every morning. I want to teach you my world. Introduce you to my people as mine. I want to buy you a gallery where you can curate and authenticate art without worrying about student loans. He turned back, intensity burning in his gaze. I want everything, Elena. But I can't ask you to give up a normal life for this darkness. I set down my cappuccino and crossed to him, bare feet silent on the plush carpet. Dante Marchetti, for a man who commands an empire, you're remarkably stupid about some things. His eyebrow lifted. Careful, Piccola. I don't want normal. I pressed my hand to his chest, feeling his heart thunder beneath my palm. I want you. This. Us. The danger and passion and impossible love we've found. I met his eyes without flinching. I'm not running from your darkness. I'm choosing to be your light. His control shattered. He kissed me hard, possessive, pouring everything he couldn't say into the contact. When we broke apart, his forehead pressed against mine. There are conditions, he said roughly. Of course there are. You finish. Your identification of the forger the families want closure. You work with my people on art authentication for future acquisitions. You accept security measures that will seem excessive. You let me introduce you to my world properly, not as a protected witness, but as, he hesitated. As what? As mine, my woman, my partner. Eventually, his thumb traced my lip. My wife. My breath caught. Dante, not today. I'm not proposing today. His smile was crooked, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen. But someday, when you've had time to really understand what choosing me means, when you've seen my world in full and still want to stay, I'm going to ask you properly. And Piccola, when I do, I'm going to expect you to say yes. Tears burned my eyes. You arrogant impossible. Yes or no, Elena. Stay with me. Build a life with me. Choose this dangerous, complicated future over your safe, ordinary past. I kissed him soft, deep, pouring every ounce of certainty into it. Yes. To all of it. Always yes. The joy in his expression was breathtaking. Good, he murmured against my mouth, because I wasn't letting you leave anyway. Kidnapping me again? Persuading you, seducing you. Whatever it takes. His hand slid under his shirt I was wearing. Starting now. I thought you had meetings. They can wait. He lifted me, and I wrapped my legs around his waist. Right now, the only thing that matters is showing you exactly how thoroughly you belong to me. He carried me back to bed, and the city beyond the windows faded away. Later, much later, we emerged to find Marco waiting with a tablet full of updates. Fedorov's trial was scheduled for that afternoon. The forger had been identified thanks to my research, a disgraced Italian master living in Prague. And the 5 families wanted to meet me formally, to thank me for exposing the scheme and to acknowledge my position as Dante's partner. They want to meet me? I asked, suddenly nervous. They want to show respect, Dante corrected, his hand warm on my back. You prevented a war, Elena. In our world, that makes you someone worth knowing, someone worth protecting. The meeting happened 3 days later, in the same restaurant where I'd first faced the families. But this time, I walked in beside Dante, not as a witness or suspect, but as his equal. His hand claimed my waist possessively, introducing me with pride rather than protection. Gentlemen, he said to the assembled leaders. My Elena. The possessive sent heat through me even as I shook hands with men who could end lives with a word. Giordano smiled, actually smiled. Miss Russo, you've been the subject of much discussion. Your intelligence and courage have impressed us all. Thank you, I managed. I hope my work identifying the forger has been helpful. Extremely. The Prague operation has been shut down, the forger arrested. Your expertise will be invaluable going forward. He glanced at Dante. Marchetti, you've chosen. Well, a woman of both beauty and brains rare in our world. Dante's hand tightened on my waist. She's far more than that. She's my partner, and anyone who respects me respects her. Completely. The message was clear. The families nodded their understanding. I was under Dante Marchetti's protection. Absolute, eternal, unbreakable. And more than that, I was his. The meeting concluded with offers of alliance, promises of support, and invitations to future gatherings. As we left, Dante leaned close to whisper, "You realize you're now part of this world permanently. The families have acknowledged you. There's no going back to normal." I turned in his arms, right there on the Manhattan sidewalk, and kissed him thoroughly. Good, because I never want normal again. I want dangerous. I want passionate. I want you. His smile was devastating. "Then you shall have me, Piccola. For as long as you want. Forever, then." "Forever," he agreed. "However dangerous that becomes." We walked back to, in his car hand in hand, the city alive around us. My old life, the catering jobs, the student loans, the tiny apartment felt like a dream from someone else's past. This was my future now. Dante's world of power and danger. Gallery openings attended by criminals in designer suits. Art authentication for pieces worth millions. Security teams and encrypted phones, and knowing I'd never be truly safe but would always be protected. And love. Fierce, consuming, absolutely real love with a man who'd burn the world for me. That night, wrapped in his arms with Manhattan glittering below, he whispered against my hair, "Tell me the story again. How we met." I smiled, knowing he'd ask me this for years to come. A waitress whispered to a Mafia boss that a painting was fake, and saved him from $100 million fraud, he continued, his voice warm with affection and possession. And he kidnapped her, protected her, fell for her, completely. He tilted my face up to his, and they lived dangerously ever after. Is that how our story ends? His kiss was answer enough. No, Piccola. That's how it begins. And he was right. This was just the beginning of our dangerous, impossible, perfect story. The art historian who couldn't stay quiet. The Mafia boss who couldn't let her go. Two lives colliding in a single whispered warning, igniting a love that would survive darkness, danger, and everything his world could throw at us. Because some connections transcend logic. Some loves are worth every risk. And some whispers change everything. Forever.